try to make it bigger so everybody can see as well. All right, so this is the timekeeping. And you got to make sure that you understand all the rules that the company is using in keeping time. So that's where you've got to read every single word in these descriptions. Otherwise, you're liable to make a mistake somewhere. So this is the decimal system of computing time. This is Timmerman Company. Production workers who are tardy are docked according to the schedule below. So if they are 1 through 6 minutes late, they're going to be docked 1/10 of an hour. That comes to 6 minutes, 60 minutes an hour, 10% of that, 6 minutes. 7 through 12, 2/10, 13 through 18, 3/10, 19 through 24, 4/10, and so on and so forth. The regular hours of work are Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 11:30 a.m. and then 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. So we've got Henry Bjorn earns $12.15 per hour. He checks in, we've got his time sheet, or his time card below. Employees are not paid for ringing in a few minutes before 7:30 and 12:30, nor for ringing out a few minutes after 11:30 and 4:30. Now that few minutes is kind of vague here, but what they're telling us is essentially it's going to get rounded. So here's his timesheet. All right, so he clocked in, so Monday, clocked in at 7:28. Well, it's a couple of minutes before 7:30. He's not going to get paid for those 2 minutes. Clocked out at 11:31. Again, 1 minute over, but he's not going to get paid for it because per their rules, you're not going to get paid for a few minutes. 12:29 in, again, in 1 minute early and out 1 minute late. Not going to get paid for any of that extra time. So if we take 7:28, and it's easiest to kind of add these together in chunks. So 7:30 to 11:30, 4 hours, right? So here's our first day, Monday. AM, sorry. All right, so how many hours is that for Monday? 4. And PM, another 4, total 8. That's pretty simple. All right. Now, he clocked in 5 minutes late on Tuesday. So if we refer back to our chart, that means he's going to get docked 1/10 of an hour for that. And then clocked out at 11:30, clocked in at 12:30, clocked out at 4:30. So we need to take our 4 hours, ordinarily this would be 4 hours, but we're going to subtract 1/10 of an hour from that time. So 4 hours minus 0.10 is 3.9 hours, right? And then the afternoon 4, for a total of 7.9 hours, adding those two together. Make sense? Okay. Wednesday. Look at Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday he clocked in at 7:50. Was super late, 20 minutes late. So 4/10 of an hour is going to be docked for that. And then he clocked out 3 minutes late. He's not going to get any pay for that. Ordinarily he would be at 4 hours. How much are we going to subtract? 0.4, right? Minus 0.4 is 3.6. And then in the afternoon, he was in it at 12:30 or 12:27, out at 4:32, so that's 4 hours. Add those two together, 7.6. Is this making sense? Okay. So you guys could certainly do the rest here. But you can see taking those in individual chunks is probably the easiest way to accomplish a problem like this. Then what they're asking for here, all the individual hours. I don't know if there's any others that are, you can do those. You just use the chart. I'm not gonna go through the rest. Total hours worked, round your answer to 1 decimal place, so all you're gonna do is total up everything. And then we're going to, they give us his hourly rate of $12.15 per hour. So in that last part, we're gonna take our total hours, multiply it by the hourly rate to get his gross earnings. That makes sense? So that's our using the 1/10 of an hour, or the fractional hour, the decimal system. Questions? Okay, let's move on. What is this one? I thought there was another one, unless it gave me. Oh, I've got a problem here for you to do the quarter hours that I put together. Because there's also the quarter hour system that can be used. I don't know if I have a problem showing that here. Maybe. Not that one. Not that one either. All right. So that's this one. Again, if anybody wants to chime in with particular questions on particular problems, let me know. What is this one? No? No, let's do this one. Joseph Cavato is paid $12.96 an hour. During the past week, he worked 46 hours. He is a covered employee who must be paid for overtime, so he's covered by the FLSA. That's what they mean by that. Anytime you also see that, like the FLSA wage, they mean $7.25 an hour when they say that. Calculate his gross pay using the overtime premium approach. Round your overtime to 2 decimal places. All right, so how would we calculate his regular pay?
Rate times hours.
Rate, which is $12.96, times total hours, right?
Yep.
So $12.96 times 46.
596.16.
You didn't do that in your head, did you? Okay. All right. So what? So this is his regular. How about the overtime?
298.08.
All right. Well, how did you get that?
Times 0.5.
What times 0.5?
6 hours. You multiply the 6 hours times 0.5, and then you get whatever it is.
But what are we multiplying by 0.5?
The 1296.
The 1296, right? So we'll take the 1296 times 0.5 times the 6 hours, right? 6 hours of overtime. And then how much did you get then?
38.88.
$38.88 for overtime, and add those two together, whatever you guys can add for our gross pay. Questions about that? Okay. What do we got next So, Kenneth Fing is a salaried employee. Normally works a 37.5-hour week and is paid a weekly salary of $675. The agreement is with his employer, states that his salary is to cover all hours worked up to and including 40. However, he worked 42 hours. Calculate his gross pay. All right. Well, so this $675, even though normally he works 37.5, if he works 40, he's still going to get that $675, right? Because it's going to include all of that. So his regular earnings are $675. But we've got to figure out what his overtime rate is in order to determine his gross pay for those 2 hours of overtime. So he still has to get paid for those 2 hours of overtime. Now, in order to do that, we're going to take the $675 and divide it by the 37.5 hours, what his normal hourly rate is. Okay?
Wouldn't it be by the 40 since it's agreed upon to include up to 40 hours?
It could be, but I think in this problem, it's the 37.5. Because the one is already,
Because the contract that he has says that that is pay for up to 40. The fact that he gets his work done early doesn't mean I have to pay him more.
well, let's do the calculations both ways and see. It could be though, yeah. So let's do it based on the 37.5 hours or let's do it your way first. 675 divided by 40. They don't really give us enough information here. So 16, and are we supposed to round intermediate?
I would say so.
Yeah, so 16.88 an hour. Okay, and then we've got 2 hours, so 16.88 times 1.5 times 2. Isn't that right?
5064.
I'm trying to think if I need to use the premium approach here though. So 725.64, let's see what it says. Oh, see down here. So they're saying to divide it by 37.5 hours. But you're right, there could be certain, depending upon whether you were, well, this isn't a fluctuating work week though.
No, but
Mm-hmm.
it's agreed upon that it's up to and including 40, so his work week is 40 hours. He just gets his work done early.
Right. Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think there's not enough information here for us to really fully determine what the agreement is between the two of them. He and his employer states that his salary is to cover all hours worked up to and including 40. So they're wanting us to use the 37.5 though. Here. Let me see if there's any no, that's just the calculations. But his regular, but I mean, it's gonna be based on his regular. I mean, essentially what he's done is he's worked through his lunch. But I think it's because he normally works this work week. Okay, not looking at that. Let's look at the other calculation. So if we divide that by 37.5, our hourly rate. $18 an hour. $54. $6.75. Did I get that right? Is that right? 29. Let's see if we're right here. Because it's not a fluctuating work week, and they don't mention the fluctuating work week, it's going to be based on that 37 and a half. Let me get back to the slides here. Okay. Different pay rates. Oops. So it's like this example here, salaried non-exempt. In this case, this employee, $1,600 a month, which we had to annualize there in order to determine what the regular weekly rate was. 35 hours of work, paid semi-monthly. Overtime is calculated as regular pay. And in this case, it's a little bit different though, because those extra hours up to 40 aren't automatically included in their salary, right? They're getting paid extra for that.
That's where my argument with it was.
Yeah, it is a little bit different from this one. So any questions on the exam are gonna be more clear than that. I'll double check on the assessment too. But good point, Anthony. And all that.
Yeah, cause it says normally works, it doesn't say that's his schedule, that's not his set
Right.
hours, that's just the.
Right. All right. Let's see here. What were some of the other ones that? Oh yes, the BELO plan. All right. So this is our fluctuating work schedules. And this question as well is not real clear because remember we have two different ways, where are we here, of calculating salaried non-exempt for a fluctuating work week. We could divide it by the total number of hours worked, which was one method, or we could divide it by 40 hours, which was the other method. And the problem doesn't tell you which way to do it. So you just have to kind of do trial and error there. The BELO plan is calculated a little bit differently, and I'll go through that because that's the third part of that question. So we've got Carrie Ortiz. Where is this? All right. Carrie Ortiz works fluctuating work schedules. She's got a salary of $1,050 per week. Her employment agreement provides for overtime pay at an extra half rate for hours worked over 40. This week she worked 48 hours. Compute the following amounts. So, I'm trying to remember how they did this here. Yeah. So remember, with those two methods, go back to the slides. Overtime calculated by dividing normal salary by total hours worked, and then the premium is for all hours over 40, or divide this fixed salary by 40 hours, and then the overtime premium is based on that. I can tell you in this problem and in your problems, you're gonna have different numbers than what I have here. They are looking for the first method. Okay, okay, where you divide it by the total number of hours. So let's do that. So we're gonna take her salary of $1,050. So we want to determine first off what the overtime earnings are. We're gonna round everything, all the intermediate amounts. So $1,050 is her salary, divided by 48 hours. So 2188. Let's go back real quick to the slide. All right. Overtime calculated by dividing normal salary by the total hours worked. Extra 0.5 overtime premium is paid for all hours worked over 40. All right, in this case, she worked 48 hours. The overtime premium, we're gonna multiply this times 0.5 to get our overtime premium.
Could you go back to the slides real quick?
Yeah. So our normal salary, $1,050, divided by the total number of hours worked to get that hourly rate. Now again, this is a fluctuating schedule based on a fixed salary. So that single hour worked over 40 is kind of already built into this 1,050. So that's why we're only calculating the 0.5. All right, so 2188 times 0.5. Overtime premium is $10.94. And then we're gonna take those 8 hours. $87.52 is what I get for the overtime earnings. Now the total earnings, all we're gonna do is we're gonna take the regular earnings of 1,050 plus the overtime of 87.52 and add those together. 1137.52. Okay, now let's look at the fun part here, the BELO plan. Any questions on those? Like I said, unfortunately the problem doesn't tell you that you're using that first method and not the second method.
I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be working any overtime. My hourly rate just got cut by working 8 extra hours.
Yeah. So if it were the first method, we could do that. If it were the first method, it's not, but if it were the first method, this would be divided by 40.
26.25.
26.25
Yep.
times 0.5. How much is that?
Well, wouldn't it be just a 1.5, because wouldn't you need to figure in the 8 hours too? Because the 8 hours isn't figured in anymore.
Well, but it's a fluctuating work week, and so the agreement's already, it's already built in, so divide the fixed salary, because that's a fixed salary. So it's already, however many hours they work, that's their fixed salary. But now we're just paying that extra premium for any hours over. So that's why it's built in. So 26.25. So 13.13. so 105.04. So it's a better deal, a little bit, than the first one. All right, let's look at this BELO plan. So I did find this, you know, it's hard to kind of describe what the BELO plan is for, but I did find this kind of definition. So it's guaranteed compensation that includes a predetermined amount of overtime. So it's already baked in. Your overtime's already baked in, whether you work it or not. It's already baked in. Offers the employee the security of a set weekly income, and the employer is able to anticipate labor costs. So it's already factored in to the calculation. Now, if this was a BELO plan with a pay rate of $22 an hour and a maximum of 53 hours, so the maximum of 53 is going to, the overtime is already baked in that if they're gonna get paid for overtime up to 53 hours. Even if they worked 30 hours, they're gonna get paid for that 53 hours. How much would she get paid if she worked 48 hours? So she's working less than what the contract is. She's not going to get paid less. She's still going to get paid that maximum amount. But we're not going to use the 1,050 in this case again. We're using just the hourly rate. So the calculation on this actually isn't too terrible. So we've got to figure out what our overtime premium is for hours over 40 that she's already getting paid. So the overtime premium, her regular rate of pay is $22 times 0.5, $11 an hour for overtime premium. So her regular pay is going to be $22 an hour for 53 hours, and then for 13 of those hours, she's getting paid an overtime premium. So $22 an hour times 53 hours. $11.66 plus we take those 13 hours, well, $11 for the overtime premium times 13 hours. This is the overtime part that's baked into the salary. Get that right, 143. So this is her. So this is for up to 53 hours. She worked 48 hours, so she's getting $13.09. She works 30 hours, she's getting $13.09. She works 52 hours, she's getting $13.09. That overtime is assumed in there. Okay, it's already calculated into what her salary is. Now, what if she worked, how long is this 53? What if she worked 55 hours? She gets paid overtime for those extra 2 hours. And that would be at the 1.5 times. So if she worked, so she gets her regular pay here. Say she worked 55 hours, then she gets 2 hours of overtime times her her regular rate of pay times 1.5. So it's kind of the best of all worlds, isn't it? And an additional $66. So $13.75. This problem, she worked 48 hours. Okay, so with that BELO plan, it's never going to be below that. Okay. Questions? Oh, you want to see if it's right? Let's see if it's right. So be careful on that one, and I know a lot of students, what they do is, and it's easy to do. So when they're working on this particular problem, they're still working with this 1,050. That's not part of the, now they've changed it. It's not 1,050 anymore. It's just a flat $22 an hour. So they've done that additional, when I've got the calculations up here, like this sheet here. So here I'm doing the hourly calculation. They've already done it in that problem. Okay? All right, let's see what else. Where are we? Okay, I tell you what, let's take a little bit of time now, Ben. And let me open this up. I don't know if I've unlocked it. You guys can work together in your groups. I've got, oh, it is open. No, not that one. Wrong one. There it is. Not open. Now it's open. The chapter 2 practice quiz, again, the answer key is there, but it's hidden, so doesn't do you any good to just look at the answers, and you're not getting any extra points, so this is just for practice. So work on that together as a group. I also have, and I hope these are kind of weird because I cut and pasted them. So these are some practice problems that are similar to the homework problems, but the numbers have been changed. There's 4 of them here. They're not numbered, but they say like problem, 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 and then there's one on the back here, problem as well. This one is this is a time card, it's based on quarter hours. And the parameters are a little bit different from what we went over up here. So these are just practice for you, as well as you guys can work on as well in your group. That's all right. Yes, you have a question. Do I have a pencil? Thanks. Let me see.